We have a guest today, Lisa Ingersoll. I've known Lisa for 5 years. At least five years. The year Apprentice University was a half year old. We met at a Map Your Future event, and we shared, we were next door neighbors or something like that at this event, and got to talking, and Lisa was with Verity at the time. Became friends, and she visited Apprentice in the early days when it was in the conference room at Bitwise, and mentored some students along the way. Later, we were eager for talent at Bitwise and hired Lisa. She came in and started out as project management. Yeah, started out as a project manager and inherited about 23 or 4 simultaneously active projects, a big workload, and then moved into account management while still having at least half of her right foot in project management, because that's what happens when you're in a small firm. And she was married last year. It's been a year already. And just got back from Iceland. And always had tremendous respect for Lisa, and she's here today to talk about LinkedIn. Lisa, that's the word I want. Lisa would be one of those people, I would say, if I were to think about a dozen people who are a lifelong learner, I would put Lisa in that category. Because I'm pretty certain you didn't learn about anything we're going to talk about today in school. No. So she is one of those individuals that I have a ton of respect for. She has that learning disposition and continues to learn. So with further introductions, Lisa, you're up. Thank you for helping us out today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thanks for that nice introduction, and you said some of the stuff that I was going to have to say, so that's even better. And yeah, I'm super excited to get to be here with you today, and I'm going to go into all the details, but the goal today is to try to make this as actionable as possible. So I don't want it to be just a class where we learn about all the stuff that we need to go do sometime, but we're going to be taking time during this day and actually hopefully getting some stuff done and crossing things off of our proverbial to-do list. So I'm a very boots on the ground kind of person, and so hopefully today will be a good mix of theory and ideas, but then also getting some stuff done. So thanks so much for being here and being so alert and bright and ready to go and helpful. So really appreciate it. We have quite a bit to cover, and so we'll do what we can, especially as far as the writing parts, and we'll just dive right in. So does everybody get a handout? We'll be referencing that some, and then we'll be switching back and forth on some screens. So as we start up, I would encourage you to go to the web link that's at the top of your paper. It's imperative.company/LinkedIn. If you get that pulled up here in the next few minutes, that'd be great. There's some additional resources that you can link on there. One question I already had was if I had this available as a PDF. I'm sorry I wasn't able to get that out to you yet, but there's another worksheet that's actually a Google Doc that you'll be able to use that we'll be pulling up.
I can just send it to him right now, PDF.
Oh, is it PDF?
I can.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, somebody, if you prefer typing, that might be easier. But these things are a little bit more quick and easy. So we'll be referencing some of these items. All right, well, today we'll be talking about LinkedIn success. And this is, I say, presented by Imperative Company. And so Imperative Company Marketing is my little business that I have now, and I'll kind of go into a little bit of background about that. But before I dive into that, I want to talk about the word imperative for just a minute. And this relates to my why, or you've probably heard about that sometimes, or actually I shouldn't assume anything. Have you guys talked to any about your why, or have you heard about you needed to find your why? Okay, raise your hand if you are familiar with that concept of finding your why. Okay, that's good. Okay, also raise your hand if you're like, I have no idea how to find my why, and like, what is my why? This is really hard. Okay, I thank you for being honest, because like I actually would say that I'm still kind of in that space myself, as much as I am a student of it. Like your why, it's like this black hole out there, like what is that? But it's something that evolves, and it's definitely worth pursuing, and we're gonna go into that a little bit today too, because it's super important. But my why, my purpose is to help people discover what their specific purpose in life is, and then equip and empower them to fulfill it, whether in business or in their life. And by business, I encompass like nonprofit or vocation, or what we might say ministry, whatever it is that you do to make an impact in the world. And that could be through business, or it could be through, nonprofit. So nonprofit is a tax status. Has nothing to do with the value of your work, and business is also a tax status. It has nothing to do with the, business. Like, it has nothing to do with the impact that you can make too. So, anyway, imperative is a term that means of vital importance. So it's crucial, essential, necessary. Something is imperative. It's really important. And then another aspect of that, or facet, is that it's like authoritative or masterful or urgent. So we might say it was imperative that they got the news to the colonists that the British were coming, or whatever. It was of vital importance. And then the noun form is like an essential or urgent thing. So they had an imperative to tell the people that the British were coming, whatever. I firmly believe that you have an imperative purpose in your life. And so you're sitting here today, and I know that you're here for a reason. I know I'm here for a reason. And it's important, and you're important. And don't think that it's a small piece that you have in the world, or a place that you play. And so I want you to have that as the background of today. What you're doing does matter, and it's not in a proud way. But it's in a purposeful, truthful way. Like God made you that way. So I'm also not assuming that everyone comes from a faith background. I do, and so I'll reference my faith in God and Jesus Christ today. But I respect your views and wherever you come from there. But that's something that I firmly believe, is that God has an imperative on your life, and your imperative. So I named my business that because I also believe that marketing is an imperative for any business that wants to have an impact. So that's kind of just a little background about that term, and I want us all to come at today with that remembrance. So as far as what I do in my business, I picked this picture because really a lot of my business is sitting at my desk in my home office, at my computer. That's a lot of my business. I do a lot of web development, web design, but kind of zooming out, I bring a business perspective to that, and so we try to be very goal-oriented. I focus on small organizations that don't have someone in their organization who's dedicated or even partially dedicated to marketing. So I'll work with anybody, but my best fit is people who are really small. So another term that I like to use is I like to work with solopreneurs, or people who are one-man shops. So are there anyone in here who maybe has this, what they call a side gig or a side hustle or a full-blown business? Okay, Andrew does. Yeah. Or we talked about, okay, everybody's like, Okay, if you do something, like I sometimes, that's something I've learned having my own business too. Like I transitioned out of Bitwise last year when I got married, and sometimes it's hard to think of yourself as a business owner when you're sitting in your office, you know, typing away on your computer. You may as well be watching Netflix on your computer, but you're actually doing something good. But to just own that and be like, I have a business, and I do valuable work for people. So anyway, feel free to own that if that's what you do. But even if you don't have that, you still have your personal brand, like we talked about with Josh the other week. And that's something that is important to be able to use these things for that as well. So we'll go into some of that good stuff. But so that's a little bit about my business, and then I want to tell you a little bit about myself really quick, because then I'm going to start listening to you guys. But so that you won't be too scared of me. Basically, pretty normal person. I moved here in 2010, so I'm from Colorado and North Carolina, and I came here to work with Verity, which is how I met Ron, and that eventually got connected with him. My husband is Jonathan, and I thought I should show you a picture from Iceland. This is a picture of us when we were actually hiking on a glacier, and our guide took us into this crevasse in the glacier that they were all excited about it because they worked super hard to make it so that the tourists could actually walk through this crevasse in the glacier, and we were literally having to go like this, and it was a lot longer. Like if I had known how long of a walk through the crevasse it was going to be, I might have raised my hand at the beginning and been like, yeah, because you asked at the beginning, like, is there anybody who doesn't think they can handle this? And anyway, it was long, but we walked through it. We also tried licking it. But anyway, it was an adventure. And then I thought Jonathan looked kind of creepy in that picture, so I wanted to show you a real picture of him. So anyway, doesn't he look really cool with his sunglasses and his helmet? So anyway, he actually looks really nice, but just a little background here. I don't know, is there anything else that you want to know about me? And then I'm going to ask you some questions. Any?
How would you say you found this passion? Just like what you're sharing with us today, LinkedIn?
Oh, about LinkedIn?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to talk more about that.
Never mind.
Yeah. I actually have an unpassion for LinkedIn.
Oh.
But. Okay, any other questions or something? Okay.
Can I add to your personal brand statement for a second?
Sure.
2 items.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. Go for it.
Lisa commented she transitioned out of Bitwise. You've heard me say your last day on the job is more important than any other day, or your first day on the job. This young lady, to say that she transitioned out was amazing. It wasn't, hey, I'm leaving. It was, I'm thinking about leaving after I get married. This was in January, June? May?
Yeah, basically. Well, end of May now.
This was in January we have this conversation. This is important to hear. This is in January we have this conversation. She said, I think after I get married, I want to go do something else. I'm like, okay. I get that. And then as she did exit, she was still available. We talked twice a week for months, even after she was gone post-wedding and honeymoon and everything. We talked for a long time after that. And even this summer, we had a project that we couldn't untangle. And I called you about it and said, do you remember this? And so that's how it happens in a professional environment. It wasn't, here's your 2 weeks, I'm out of here, don't ever call me again, and befriend me on LinkedIn and whatever else. That's how it's supposed to be done. The last thing I would say about Lisa, as you see, she's talking about her personal brand, is Lisa's success in project management and sales was due to her extreme ability to have empathy and engagement. Empathy and engagement. So she would not only understand the customer's needs, right, but she was engaging about those needs. She was communicative and discussing and willing to nurture that conversation forward. So to have her here, I'm excited, thrilled that you came. With that mindset, there's a lot to be learned outside of just this hour and a half or how long today. To have her as a resource at Aquinas University, somebody you can send an email to and say, how would you do this? So 2 points of your personal learning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I was thinking I was going to learn something that was like a big surprise, like, and Lisa knows how to tame Gila monsters.
That too. I'll save that for another.
So thank you. I appreciate it. I do have my phone number and my email at the bottom of here, so feel free to reach out if you are working on your LinkedIn profile some night at midnight and you're like, what is that button? No, don't really actually text me with that, but you'll know when to get in touch, I'm sure. Feel free. Okay, that's a quick little background. Now, before we get into a lot more just LinkedIn stuff, we're going to take some more polls, and oh man, I was going to have you stand up because we just need to get active, but you guys all have your left desks going, so I won't make you do that. Let's talk about just where you guys are at in your LinkedIn journey. So how many of you have actually signed up for a LinkedIn profile already? Okay, so quite a few. All right, that's good. But it's fine if you haven't, that's no problem. And then how many of you, so on a scale of 0, so we have a scale of 0 to 5, 0 being I created my LinkedIn profile, seriously have not logged in once. So that's 0. And then 5 is I'm on there at least daily, if not multiple times a day. And then, that's somewhere in between all the others. So how many of you would say, of those who have a LinkedIn profile, okay, first let's actually go before that. Can you raise your hand if you don't have a LinkedIn profile yet? Okay, great. And then now is the zeros. How many of you have made it and literally haven't really logged in since day one? Okay. And no shame, this is not, there are no ratings attached to any of this. This is just my research. I'm going to publish it on a study later. But, and then, okay, who would put yourself in a 1 or a 2? Like, you've barely been in there since, okay. And then, like 3 to 4, like you're on there barely, like, maybe at least a few times a month, okay. And then how many of you would say you're at 5s, you're in there every day? Okay, you have the app, maybe. How many of you have the app? Okay, okay, good. All right, that's super helpful. And that helps me know that I think this class is going to be helpful. Well, hopefully, that's the plan. What I was hoping is that I didn't. Okay, now, how many of you are like between a 6 and a 10? Like, you are actually. How many of you have a paid LinkedIn profile? Okay, Ron. Good. That's appropriate. How many of you would? Like, I'm trying to think of some really. How many of you would be like, I could and. Please tell me if you could, like, I could teach a class on LinkedIn today or tomorrow. Okay. Actually, I'm not really in that spot either, so I just want to tell you, like, I am no LinkedIn whiz, and I'm coming at this from a very, like, beggar to beggar perspective, I would say. So I know enough, and I have a strategy that I like for myself, and it fits with my goals, and so we're going to go into all that. But this is really going to be super practical, especially on how to do the basics. I'm also all about sustainability. So there's going to be a lot that we don't talk about today, and that's because I would rather that we come up with a system that we can maintain to help us reach our goals than to know all of the whiz tricks and all that stuff. So that's kind of where we're coming at this from, with just a little bit of the background. Talk to me a little bit about, I think it was 2 weeks ago that you got to hear Josh Miles' personal brand stuff. So we kind of wanted to do this as a follow-up to that, because he talked about some of the background, and then he touched on LinkedIn and how that can be part of that. But I'd just love to hear your perspective. I work a lot with branding. That's one of the things that I do too. And branding, kind of like your why, is one of those other terms, and I'm like, still kind of super nebulous and it's hard to wrap your brain around, hard to put it in a box. But so I'd love to hear like some of your takeaways from his session about branding. Yeah, for like Access 2 weeks ago. Can I stand over here so that you guys don't have to stare in the sun?
That would be great. Yes.
I might be able to do that. Actually, I can if I have this clicker. Work. Okay. We'll try. Was that any better? Not really, because I actually have to like stand over there, but okay.
I was going to say, one of the things that really stood out to me from the workshop was he made the comment that your personal brand is all about establishing your goal and then you kind of work backwards from there. So you say, this is how I want to be seen, now how do I get there?
Okay.
So.
That's wonderful. I'm all about that too. So. And how would you contrast that to maybe what you thought it would be? Or maybe you hadn't even thought about it, but can you think of how it could be opposite from that?
I guess I kind of knew that that's like the general idea of it, but I was always more focused on how you, like the tools that you use to do that versus going in, and pretty much with anything, like you should go in with the end goal in mind, and then you're a lot more effective at using the tools
Absolutely.
and resources that you have.
Excellent, yes. That's a great takeaway. Any other standouts from what he said?
One of the comments he made at the beginning of his workshop was your brand is bigger than the thing you do, which I think is really important, especially where we are and we're trying to figure out what career. It's not, your personal brand is bigger than your career. It's who you want to be in all areas of life
Right.
versus what work you can do.
Yes, excellent. That's good. Has anyone done anything, like made a decision or taken an action based on something that you learned from Josh?
I started posting on LinkedIn,
Okay,
so it's only been once a week since then.
Okay.
I've done twice, but one was
Great.
actually about this workshop.
okay, excellent. You know, when you post about going to a LinkedIn workshop, then everybody's expectations of your LinkedIn drastically rise. Okay.
I bought his book.
Okay, that's a good action. The bold brand.
Yes.
Yeah, I that piqued my interest too.
I haven't started it yet because
Okay.
I just got it not that long ago. So.
I did figure out that I am much better at buying books than reading them.
Oh.
So next time I see you, I'm going to ask you how it's going.
Sounds good.
But, all right, what else did you take away from his stuff? Anything you want to share? Okay. I think just kind of like my 2 cents on personal brand is I kind of, even though like I'm in the middle of marketing and branding, I still have like this internal resistance to personal brand, and part of that comes from my faith, I think, and like as a Christian, I'm taught like, you know, to put others ahead of yourself. Like it's not all about me, right? It's about God and it's about others, and so like personal brand is just like, you know, but when I started to think of it as it's even not, I also think it can be something like, okay, I decide I want to be this, so I'm going to try to make myself into that by, you know, honing my personal brand or whatever. But when I think about it's actually like, God, I already am something, I have an identity, and it goes beyond what I do. So how can I use this concept of a personal brand to just help me be more effective at the things that God wants me to do, and to be more effective as the person who God wants me to be. So it's also a tool, and LinkedIn is another tool that we're going to talk about that takes us a little deeper into that. So kind of like I mentioned, I actually I'm not, LinkedIn is, and actually any social platform, even though like one of my services that I offer is managed social media services. So literally we create posts for everybody. Hi Mary.
How are you?
Great, how are you?
Good,
Welcome.
Thank you.
We're just diving in. This is my friend Mary.
Hi, everyone.
So, but, thank you. It can be hard for me to get all excited because I'm a very one-on-one person. Like, I really like real people. And so sometimes I feel like, man, I don't want to be stuck behind my phone and behind my computer all the time, especially when those interactions can start to seem super artificial. So we're going to kind of talk about that and how even if you have that perspective, it can still be a tool that you use to extend those real relationships. So we're going to, I kind of, what I put down on your paper are the why, the what, and the how. And these three things that we're going to talk about are the background, and I want us to really consider, before we dive into the details of how to create your custom profile URL and how to look for jobs and how to write your summary, all that, let's take a minute and really think about why we see LinkedIn being part of our strategy and our influence. Before we do that, though, there might be some people in here who don't even know what LinkedIn is. I didn't actually ask that. So I'm going to go ahead over and we're going to take a look at LinkedIn and at like a profile. So just in case you just dropped in, maybe you got out of prison or something for 20 years, hopefully not. But we'll kind of just take a look, and if we were to explain this to a Martian or the proverbial Martian, what would we say about LinkedIn? So LinkedIn is an online tool or an app that allows us to build connections and communicate with people all over the world. And they have a lot of tools inside that help us find certain people and then to communicate with people. So in a nutshell, that's what it is. And so you could think of it as the world's largest networking event. So for instance, this is a networking event. Afterwards, we can all talk and meet each other, and you can tell me about your stuff that you do and we're going to find ways that we can help each other. So that's networking. LinkedIn is a huge online networking opportunity. If we think about communication, there's lots of ways to communicate: letters, carrier pigeons, text messages, smoke signals. LinkedIn is another way to communicate, albeit a pretty efficient one. So that's another aspect of it. Kind of since I said that, basically we're going to be going deeper into all these different pieces, but ways to find people, communicate. So my network, we can search for people who we don't even know. Like if I want to search for, let's say, I'm trying to think of somebody. Like I'm not connected to Mike Pence, but I can I can look for him on here. And so yeah, Mike Pence for Indiana. We can, it's a way to search for people. So in the real world, the only way to really search for people might be like a detective or something like that. If we're trying to find somebody that we needed to connect with, we might use a phone book, we might use a detective. This is a really efficient, easy way to find people. So it's kind of like a detective, a communication meeting, and a networking party in an app or in a desktop system. So that's kind of a super background, basic way to look at what LinkedIn is. I just wanted to show that in case I didn't actually ask that, if there was anybody who's like, what is this thing anyway? So, any questions so far? Yeah.
Hi, do you know where, if there's like a Wi-Fi password for us to go online or?
Yeah.
So for PwC guests, it's Psalm 136 with capital P.
Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so now that you've seen that super simplistic view of what LinkedIn is, might be asking, like, why do I want to use it? And so this is a point where I'd like you to take a few minutes and I thought I might have a board up here, and that's totally fine that we don't. But let's just talk it out. Okay. For now, we'll just toss out things from what you know of LinkedIn and from that little picture I just showed you. Why would you even want to bother doing LinkedIn?
Because that's where more of the business community is, and just to maintain contact with people you've met at networking events.
Okay. I really liked the word that you use, maintain contact. That's a good one.
There are leads for jobs on LinkedIn that are better than Facebook Marketplace and all the other ones.
Yes. Finding jobs is a really good purpose. So to help us locate jobs, help employers find us on there. If you're ever in a position where you're hiring people, huge tool. Excellent.
I think along the same vein, they can find you. It's really great. I've had people search for me, and I didn't even know them.
Right.
Their businesses. Yeah.
Absolutely. We'll be going into all that even deeper, and so that's a huge reason why. Let me just share a couple of my whys, because I tend to be a little more theoretical even on this kind of stuff. So there's some super practical things like jobs, helping with communication. But other whys is like it's a tool that I have available to me that can help me fulfill some of my personal values, which are service and honesty. So it's a tool, and then connection is really important. And then I kind of had to grapple with these interactions can seem so surfacey on LinkedIn, but it is a tool that I have at my disposal. So that's a why. Those are some of the things that make me think I should be there. Another why, oh yeah, go for it.
Find communities you never thought of.
Yes, yeah. Do you have an example of how you used it that way?
Just programming communities
Okay.
in Indiana that I've never heard about or
Right.
found.
Yeah. Wow, good job, guys. Do you want me to move this table?
Behind, I'm going behind.
Okay. Okay, so this is where I want you to just take a minute and brainstorm your whys. And you might come back to this, but try to come up with at least one or two really quick reasons why you super personally know that LinkedIn is important for you. So you have this space on here, and I underline I because if, for instance, right now, I don't use LinkedIn to pursue leads. Where I'm at in my career, I'm not in a spot where I need it. Now, will I be in that spot? Absolutely. But that's not one of my whys right now, like because it's a huge lead opportunity or whatever. But you're gonna have, you need to put down your reasons. So take a minute and think about that. The first question on the sheet, why should I use it? Thank you so much. I appreciate it. That was
People ask me questions, maybe a lot better. By the way, everyone, this power strip does not work. I've seen like 8 people try to plug things in and it doesn't work.
Did you know that when I was plugging mine in?
I totally knew that.
Are you serious?
Is the power strip turned on?
I don't know. I just know it's not working.
You are literally the worst. Just, you know.
Wow. And
Oh,
and
wow.
I did it too, just
Wow.
conduct this little experiment.
Good, thanks.
People fall for it.
I thought it was funny, but does it work?
You have like this little experiment
yeah.
going. You kind of decide you need a little cover.
It's working.
Be a nice person.
Oh, cool. Just like your attempts.
Okay. Does everybody feel like, okay, is there anyone in the room who couldn't literally think of one reason that they should be on LinkedIn? And if that's you, that's totally fine. Okay, that's good. So you came up with something, even if you're maybe not on there yet, and that's fine. So that's good to know. Kind of like we mentioned, I just put up a couple things here. It's a tool for finding work, build your network, showing leadership and initiative. It's a great way to, especially like our demographic and age group, it stands out when you're there and when you're having quality content and using it actively. So that's another way to take initiative and show that you know how to do something. So that's important. Let's move on to the next question. Let's think a little bit about what are your goals. And so we kind of have some reasons, but let's try to make it a little bit more actionable, like knowing your why for LinkedIn. Let's think about what maybe some more tangible finish lines that you'd like to have. And so, for instance, you mentioned finding leads. I don't know exactly where you're at in your, you need to find leads for what you do, but that might be because my why is to make connections, meaningful connections with people. And maybe you have a personal goal that's like, I'm trying to make this many sales this month, or my personal goal is to connect with donors who can support my nonprofit. Whatever it is, you might have some specific link angles. Then, like my goal is to try to, and you can, at this point you don't need to get super duper specific. We all know that goals need to be specific, but try to think about two aspects of your goals. What are your personal goals, and then your LinkedIn goals? So there again, building on the why, personal goals, and then what are one or two LinkedIn goals that you can have. I put this picture of this ladder that's like going up into the sky, and this person, this individual, has reached the top of the ladder only to find that they didn't really want to be at the top of that ladder because it's going nowhere. So as we're at this stage of our lives, and actually all through our lives, we have to stop and ask ourselves, like, am I headed up the right ladder? Are my goals even the right goals? So I'm going to talk a little bit more about this guy who I call Arnie, who I think his goal in life was to have a bajillion LinkedIn connections, and that wasn't that was a goal that was going into the clouds. So try to be more actionable, like based on my why and based on some of my life goals, what's a goal or two that I can have specifically for LinkedIn? You can take a few minutes and think about that. Does anybody have one that they'd like to share that they feel comfortable sharing?
Find several communities I can be actively engaged with.
Okay, excellent. That's that's very actionable, and you'll know if you've met your goal, right? So that's great. That's good. Yes.
My network. Grow my network as large as possible and have strong connections with everyone in my network so that I can reach out to them if I need something or vice versa.
Okay. All right. So see, that's you like my friend Arnie. You had a goal of building a big network, but you coupled that with a reason.
being able to learn, it's a great spot because so many people are sharing actual helpful articles to build people up and grow your skills in various areas.
Right, excellent. Kind of on that note, if you're really wanting to make sure that you're learning and having a learning disposition and moving forward, where do you think you're going to find the most trustworthy sources of credible information? Facebook or LinkedIn?
LinkedIn.
Anyone vote for Facebook? Anyone vote for LinkedIn?
Yes.
So yeah, if you, we all know that we can find endless sources of scrollable data to read and interesting things, but if you actually want to be expanding your brain power, then scrolling LinkedIn content is a great choice. So. All right, just a few things on as far as goals. Now that you've already written a couple things down, but just a few things to consider and think about. Do consider your season of life. So here again, you don't have to do what everyone else does. You make sure that your goals fit with where you are at right now. Just because everyone does it or says to do it doesn't mean, if we all did everything that the experts online, who really are experts in their niche, if we did everything that they all told us to do, we would literally do nothing but type on our computers all day or make live videos or what. So, and we know that, so we have to decide what's for me right now. And then also, as you're implementing your strategy today, do try to think of something sustainable. So don't go away from today and be like, I'm going to post on LinkedIn twice a day and connect with 17 new people every week, whatever. Try to come up with something. I like to say 1 or 2 things. Like what's one thing that you're going to take out of today that you can do on a sustainable basis. So just keep that in mind. Then finally, how. We're going to get into this a lot more later, but a big purpose of today is to go out with daily, weekly, monthly goals and action steps that you can take that will support your why and your goals. So we'll get more to that in a bit, but let's now go into a bit of the technical stuff and get moving on some things. So we're going to take a quick look at some lingo, and I'm going to just take a quick gaze down this list, and then I'm actually going to jump over and start. We're going to actually be looking at the profile in case any of these things are mysteries. So, big list of words here. We're going to be talking about profile, connections, notifications, messages, network, recruiters, keywords, privacy, and career goals. So, the first word on here that isn't necessarily intrinsic to LinkedIn is recruiter. And I think this is something that I didn't even really know existed in the world until after, I didn't really know this in college, what a recruiter was. But basically, there's a huge industry in the world where there are people who their whole job in life is to find people to put them in jobs. And there's a couple different ways this can work. One common way is that when, there's companies over here who need people, and then there's people who need jobs, so people, and then the recruiter is the bridge, finding out what companies need, and then connecting people, finding people, and connecting with companies. So that recruiter piece, it's amazing, but somebody, obviously, and the companies can look for people themselves, hang out, help wanted sign on their ice cream shop or whatever, but especially in huge companies, who maybe they're trying to find super specific roles or whatever, they'll actually hire people to do that looking for them. Now, sometimes it's not entirely in your best interest or in the company's best interest, because these recruiters are sometimes, they make, sometimes, depending on how their pay structure works, they might make money when they get somebody hired at a company. So their success is finding somebody and getting them put into a company. So this happens to my husband. He works in IT at Ortho Indy Hospital, and so people contact him. He got that job through a recruiter, so we're glad for that. But now people contact him, and they're trying to find, hey, I have this cool job for you. Well, they really don't care about him and his goals and his needs and his skills. And they might not even care about the company. They just care about, I just want him to get a new job so that I get a paycheck. Yeah.
For the recruiter, does it matter how long they stay at the job? Or so if they get hired and then like 3 days later they get fired, does that recruiter actually still make money, or is that a loss?
Ron is shaking his head back there. It's gonna vary, but that wouldn't typically be the situation. And so kind of based on that, like the recruiter who did place my husband originally, he was super good about following up, and they actually had like during his first months and even years of work there, they take him out for lunch, how's everything going, like so they are incentivized to make sure that it's a good fit, but it's not necessarily gonna be valuable enough. They really know you and you really know them. So I've encountered other situations in the recruiting industry where they have a better incentivization, like they're paid by we won't get into that, but the gist is if you get recruited by someone on LinkedIn, don't necessarily just feel like, oh cool, like my profile must be really great, I'm such a good person, like not necessarily, yeah, but so just be aware of that aspect of LinkedIn. We'll mention that again.
There's also a new trend of scams that have erupted in the last year or so, where people get lured into paying a recruiter, and good luck. Yeah,
Yes. Okay. As with anything that is legitimate, there's
It's
going
not much
to be
money.
some bad apples in
It's
there.
not much money, it's like $100.
Okay. So it's
But
an easy
100
scam
times
to get.
1,000 once a month and you pay your bills.
Yeah. So there's a side note. don't click that. But there are definitely legitimate recruiters, and there are definitely legitimate times to connect with them. I just wanted to kind of have that out there. Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna jump over and look at. If you have a LinkedIn profile, you can definitely take a look in your own profile. I'm just basically going to be showing through these different terms just to make sure we're all on the same page. I've obviously already set up my LinkedIn profile, and I also want it to be upfront, like I don't have the world's best LinkedIn profile, so after the class, please do not go and be like, I'll just copy every word that she did and I'll be good. So not necessarily. I know that I can definitely get better, but we'll take a look here. Your profile is really about you, but you can also see that on other people. So anytime you click on someone, you end up on their profile, and we'll go through all the pieces of that in the next slide. But your profile is just all about you, basically. Your connections is also called your network, and these are all the people who you're connected with. So in the real world, your connections would be people who you actually got to shake their hand and meet them, right? Or you wrote them a letter or whatever. But on LinkedIn, you can be connected, just like in anything digital, with tons of people, even if you've never actually met them. So take connections somewhat with a grain of salt, both for yourself and others. So if you see someone, they're like, oh my goodness, they have 500 plus connections on LinkedIn, which we'll get into that. Okay, cool. And same for you, like, oh my goodness, I only have 45 connections on LinkedIn. You know what, if you actually know those people, then that's probably fine. Like, 45 quality connections beats 450, fake connection, or, like, you pushed a button and they said yes, right? So, connections, we'll go more into that. Notifications, when you log in or if you use the app, notifications are just little messages, and there's all kinds of different little things here that you can see. Personally, for me, I pay a lot more attention to my messaging than to my notifications. Messages are, like, as you can see in your notifications, oh, thank you, Grace. Wow, 13 skills. Anyway, you can, like, there's all kinds of like little news things, and you know, a lot of it isn't immediately relevant, and so there's, as we get into some of our strategies, we can take a more look at this. But we talked about, so messages, this is basically like messages, text messages, email messages, whatever. I consider a LinkedIn message to be a little bit less like serious than an email, or it's a little lighter. So if I just need to like shoot off a quick question to someone and it's not super urgent, I'll shoot them a LinkedIn message. I kind of have a stratification in my head, like, is this person, should I send them an email, I met them at a networking event, or is it more like I just kind of want to say hi, nothing super urgent, or I want to start a conversation? LinkedIn messages, I think, are a perfect situation for that. We'll get more into how we can use this too, but that's just a quick look there. We talked about recruiters, keywords. This is just another term I wanted to mention. Those are going to factor in a lot in our profile. We'll hear about the importance of those. The words that you use on LinkedIn for your profile are really important because of that search aspect of LinkedIn. So for people finding you and discovering, basically learning that you exist as a person, the words you use are super important. A couple other things I wanted to mention here. If you go to your profile, as with everything, there's it's important to keep in mind about privacy. And so I would just be sure that you're keeping an eye under me. You have the link that says settings and privacy. And just, it's good to take a look at this every once in a while and make sure that the right people are seeing the right information about you. For instance, you have the power to show like which email addresses show to people. We'll talk more about connections and levels of connections, but you can say like only show my phone number to my first level connections, or there's different things you can do, but just don't forget that that's there. And I do strongly like when I do like every once in a while kind of do an audit of my profile or whatever, I'll be like, whoa, I didn't know that everybody in the world could see my hometown. That's not a real thing, but every once in a while, you know, you have the surprise of like, oh, come to think of it, they don't need to know that. So just keep that in mind. The last term that I wanted to mention, just as in this quick tour, is your career options. You're going to find that under jobs. And this is such an important part. If you are actively looking for a job, there's this section called career interests, right here at the top under jobs. And this is a place to let recruiters know you're open. The thing to be aware of with this is if you turn this on, it's possible, like if let's say that I still worked at Bitwise Solutions and I decided like, I really want to work at Salesforce. I don't. But if I did, I could turn that on and like start doing my profile so that I could show that I want to work at Salesforce. And it's possible that there's steps that we can take so that Bitwise doesn't know that I really want to work at Salesforce, but it's still possible that they would find that out. So just be aware of that as you use your career options. If you adopt the policy in your life where you don't burn bridges and you have that transitional relationship with your current employer, hopefully they'll actually, if you have that conversation with them, you're like, Ron, I really want to work for Salesforce because they have free LaCroix in their break room. So if you have that open conversation with your current employer, then Ron's probably like, okay, well, you know what? I'll go write you a recommendation and say that she loves Salesforce and whatever. So personally, I love to have that honest, like I said, honesty is one of my core values, and super simple. It keeps, there's so many things you just don't have to worry about. But if you are, and things happen, you do need to keep it on the down low, that you want to work at Salesforce, then just be aware that career interests are open you up to some surprises with your employer, perhaps. So, this is the only time I'm going to talk about this, so I'll just take a quick look through it. But basically, you can say, are you actively applying, casually looking, not looking but open to offers. Don't even turn it on if you're not open to offers. But when would you like a new job? What job titles are you considering? What locations? So this is especially perfect if you're trying to look outside of because like recruiter in Charlotte, North Carolina isn't going to know that you want a job at, Pepsi Cola is big down there. They won't know that if you don't say you're open to a job there if you live in Indianapolis. So that's especially useful. Also the different options here.
Lisa,
so, yeah.
could I add, there's a recruiter version of LinkedIn that all these settings that you trip on and off in here, set on and off in here, they're used as filters and search by recruiters.
Right.
So there's a whole, to your point about there's a whole industry that will use this to search and filter and find that purple unicorn for the position that they need.
Yes. Yeah, and that's why this matters. It's not necessarily gonna put a huge banner on your page, Adam wants a job, whatever. But you're totally right that it relates to the keywords and what they can find out about you. Yes, it's something like in the 85 to 90% of recruiters use LinkedIn. So I would argue that LinkedIn has basically grown, the recruiting industry is basically built simultaneously with LinkedIn. I don't have any stats to back that up, but anyway, this is a great, if you are looking for a job, definitely check that out. That's important. Any questions about some of the terms and lingo, or anybody just tired of being quiet? Okay, let's move on then to, we're going to take a quick look at, we're going to go into the profile now. So once again, I won't even switch over, I'll just show you this, but this quick list. This list is super quick. By the way, I will put this PowerPoint on, I'll link it on this page later, so you'll be able to look back at any of these lists and see the notes and stuff. So that'll be there. I might not get to that today, but it'll be there. So no need to type down every word here. But so I'm just going to cream through these really quickly. We're going to look at all of these things on the actual profile. A few things that are really easy to miss. The profile URL, and this is your specific link, and that's an important part of your brand. Really easy to fix, so we'll look at that. A lot of the other things, as you're setting it up or as you're even reviewing it, kind of makes sense, like, oh yeah, I see where to do this and that. We'll talk about the header image, that's another one. The skills and endorsements, we're going to talk about the differences there, and then recommendations, so those are important. And then there's other things like accomplishments, things you've published. You can get a lot deeper in that. We're not really going to go into those things today, but we'll just take a look at the most important things. The purpose of this is, do pay attention as we take a look through the profile, because in a minute we're going to be actually taking time to either set up or review our current profile and see if there's anything that we can make better. So that's the purpose of going through all these things. First, let's start with your public profile and URL. And that's going to be, if you're on a desktop, I think most of you are, that's over here. And this is basically the web link that you have up here. And when you set up your profile, it's going to give you some big number code thing. And so people aren't going to be able to, it's not like a pretty link like you can link to things. Now, I want to tell you, I actually made a mistake on your handout, you'll see that at the bottom I have my LinkedIn, I put my LinkedIn URL. Well, I didn't actually go and copy it off of the thing, but I think I just put, there's this extra little /in/Lisa-Ingersoll, my name. So it's not, I think on the sheet I just put /Lisa-Ingersoll. But anyway, that's just something to keep in mind. If you're trying to remember your URL from memory, just be sure to put that in there. But the way to change that, so this is something for you to do if you need to later, is you're going to click edit that, and it's going to take you into the editing section. And then right over here, edit URL. So if I wanted to change this to Lisa Ingersoll world's best marketing expert or whatever, I think you're limited to 100 letters, but you can definitely take a minute to do that if you haven't already. That's really good. Okay, you also have, there's 2 different pictures that you get to decide on your LinkedIn, and super easy to notice your profile picture, but amazingly, one of the things that you see a lot online is make sure your picture is wonderful. And first of all, make sure you have a picture. Because like when you're actually looking, if I'm going to look for people, you'll see tons of them that, obviously took the time to set up their profile but didn't put any photo. So do you think you're going to connect with Mike Pence, who has a blue, this little blue scarf thing, or a picture of a person? Obviously, a person. So one thing that I would suggest that you do, if you feel like you don't have a good picture, your selfies or your normal pictures, is maybe as teammates here at AU, sometimes just have somebody with a good iPhone find a good background and just take some pictures of each other. Like even that is going to be way better than, find a nice background, not a garage door. That would be my recommendation. I feel like it's amazing when I get headshots, like clients are like, I need my headshot, like garage door. I'll try not to bring in too many pet peeves into this conversation.
It's especially important when you're networking and you've not met someone.
Yes.
And you're in a busy place.
Right.
And you can, I can recognize that face.
Definitely.
On LinkedIn. I mean, I use that daily.
Great.
Often. Yeah.
Yeah, imagine like when you, let's say that a LinkedIn conversation leads into an actual conversation, like, hey, let's meet for coffee. And it's so nice to walk in and know who you're looking for. And I'm sure they love it too when they walk in and like, oh, I recognize you. So I also use my photo in my email signature. So that's another good place to use it. Yeah, so make sure that's decent. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to pay tons of money for it or anything, but make sure your picture represents you. You can also change this banner image. And so that's another thing that is just a small thing that takes you a notch up. I have one guy who's helped me some with LinkedIn is Ron Sukanik, and he's here in Indianapolis, and he teaches he's written a book on LinkedIn, and he's a big LinkedIn guy. And he was the one who told me, like, be sure to change your background banner image on your LinkedIn profile. The thing that he didn't tell me though, and the thing to watch, is that it looks very different on mobile. So we're gonna get there, but I'm gonna show you why this is actually not a good background image. Unfortunately, you can't do much with that real estate because mobile is so different. So just really I wanted on mine, after talking to him, to do something like, put something like, marketing is imperative to your business, whatever, I don't know. But if you put words in it, it really doesn't work too well. So I'll show you more about that. But do change that, and the way to change all these things is to push this pencil here. So keep that in mind, that you can change that header image. I'll show you real quick. When you click that pencil, you have the option to change your profile picture as well as your background image. It tells you what's recommended, but you can actually put in any picture, and then you can move it around to show whatever you want. So it's not too specific. Quickly going through the rest of the profile here. Yeah.
As far as that background image,
Yeah.
would it be a good idea to put like business logo or whatever back there? Would that be okay, or should it be an actual visually engaging picture?
Totally good question. Let me come back to that when the next slide is has some more stuff about the app versus desktop, and we'll answer that question. So that's a great question, and it's important. So, okay, name, pretty easy. Unfortunately, if you're trying to be super private these days and not actually go by your real name, it's really hard. So I've personally in my life just been like, you know what, I'm just going to use my name everywhere, even though part of me is like, I don't want anybody to know who I am. If you're in that camp, you probably just need to throw away your computer and your phone. No, I don't know. Privacy and protecting yourself is a balance, but if you have any questions about that, we can talk about that later. So, the next super important part that we're going to talk about is the headline. And by default, LinkedIn makes your headline out of your current job position. And so 95% of the time when you are scrolling through LinkedIn, you are seeing people's, you're just seeing their job position. So let's take a look here at, I'm going to go back over to my network, and all the apprentice people are scrolling differently. So it shows this, and it's probably like, see how some of you have super similar things. These are a little more noticeable. Owner, whatever, Disney College of Knowledge graduate. They almost all just list the position. However, your headline is one of your most important ways that you can stand out. So for instance, when I go to me, here's my headline. I'm actually putting something about me in that headline. Important for two reasons. It's a way to stand out. Well, actually, let me say three. It's a way to stand out. It's different. It shows that you are more than your current role or position. And especially if we're not in our dream position. Like right now, I absolutely love my job, and I don't have any plans to change. But if I still was a pizza maker at Whole Foods Market, which I was for a long time, like, do you think I would want to be defined by, pizza queen at Whole Foods Market? Not really. So as wonderful as it was, but that gives you a chance to say who you are rather than what you do. And then the third reason, and maybe the most important, is that the keywords that you use there show up in searches for recruiters and other people. So keep that in mind. That's something that I'm going to have you work on today is we'll come up with, I want you to brainstorm 3 possible headline options that you can use for yourself. And one can be your current job title, position, whatever you want, what you do, but then try to come up with 2 others that more like say what you are or what benefits you provide, things like that. Does that kind of make sense, the difference between a customized headline and just the stock, here's my current position headline? Okay. You'll probably, writing it is the hard part, of course, but because it's super easy to just let it fill in your job title, but you are limited to 120 characters there, so that's also the tricky part, is like fitting in, encompassing your entire career benefits in 120 characters, while also including important keywords. But okay, and then current position, we'll get more into that. Education. When you're creating your new profile, these are also where you are going to be able to enter in new positions or current or past job history. So that's really important. And it's pretty self-explanatory. I currently work here. uncheck update my headline. So if I add a new, let's say, I became, vice president of LaCroix at Salesforce. Actually, I'll just say snacks. Does anybody here drink LaCroix water? Did you hear about it this week? Actually, I'm not even going to say that because it might have been clickbait. There was something broke that was like, oh, it's not good for you. Anyway, I won't even say it because I didn't research it yet. But so anyway, VP of snacks, and then let's say I'm at Salesforce. When I do type in something here, it starts to find actual pages. So I'll say Salesforce, and I'm going to say location, London, UK. Obviously, totally bogus. January, I work here starting in 1979, actually before I was born. I don't currently work here, but so that means I ended in, whatever, 2000.
2019.
Pretty good career. Obviously, I don't currently work here. Typing in a description, for starting out today, we probably aren't going to take the time to do a description, but this is a really good place to put even things from your resume. So like, how many of you, have you done a resume writing class already? Okay, and so is anybody in here not have a resume? If you don't, that's totally fine, okay. If you have one though, that's a really easy starting place for adding your experience in here. Now, it should be more, but that, especially if you are just trying to get a decent profile up, that's okay for starters. So, anyway, that's super basic about adding experience, and that's something that you're going to do later. I'm not going to keep this. You're supposed to be like, what? What is this supposed to? Yes, I do want to start that. Okay. Job positions, you'll pick locations. That's really important. Obviously, your education is important too. They say that so if you have something you can put, that's great. Obviously, if you're a student, it's fine if you don't have anything to put there. And then let's jump down and talk about your summary. This is the other piece that's really important. Yeah?
Can I ask about industry first real quick?
Sure.
Because I've had a lot of difficulty in actually finding an industry that works. So right now mine's nonprofit organization management. That's not accurate.
Okay.
But I was trying to find something that is actually close and accurate.
Yeah.
And I can never find it. So.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about that. And I fall into the same thing. Like, I kind of go back and forth between, because it says marketing and advertising, but I don't really want to be tagged as an advertiser. Because that doesn't really fit with what I do. So, yeah, it's, the other great thing about, so this is a strategy that we're going to cover. Your profile is organic and dynamic. It can be, so feel free to change it. And so if you, for instance, let's say you decide you have a certain job that you want to pursue, like VP of snacks at Salesforce, that's where if you have a specific role in mind, that's where you're going to go in and you're going to update this profile to fit that. So like you're positioning yourself, showing yourself that you're that perfect person for that job. So that might be where at that point, let's say that you nonprofit marketing management or whatever, nonprofit management, let's say you're looking for something that's a lot more tech-related, even though it's for nonprofits, whatever, you might go in and say internet and technology or something like that for your industry.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
that helps a lot.
I just don't worry about that too much because I don't know why they never have good options on those lists. Like, I think it started with the IRS because like for the IRS, you have to classify yourself as something. You have a big list, but it's still like, and they're also sometimes archaic. Like, you don't have anything about the internet on here? Oh, I don't know. LinkedIn's a little bit better than that, but okay, pay attention to this summary section. We're going to be working on this in a bit. This is the part that shows up when someone goes to your profile. It's one of the first things that they see. So here's like the first part of your summary is just like bullet points about you. You can see, see my connections. It shows me how many I have. This is my headline. This shows my current position, where I work, my current company. So it shows the top company on my list. I actually have 2 current companies because I have 2 businesses, and so both of those are active on my profile, but the one that's on top shows on my snapshot right here. Then this is like the teaser for my summary that I'm gonna write, that I'll show you, and that we're gonna write later. So the reason this teaser is important because basically you really wanna write this summary such that people wanna read more and see what you do. Now, I've also heard a strategy that it's really good to put your contact information, like especially your email address, very first in your summary. So that's like the first thing they see. So that's kind of 2 strategies. First, they see your contact info. Strategy 1, like contact info first. Strategy 2 is teaser so that they read more about what you do. I have some additional links available for you, and we'll get more into the summary, but that's just the background so you see where it shows up and what shows up. The problem with the summary is that, like right now I have nice line breaks in here, break everything up. When it's collapsed, it just runs all the first lines together into one big line. So for instance, if I put my email address on one line here, then it just runs it all in together with everything else. So just be aware of that as you're creating your summary. It just basically the first 120 to 180 characters, whatever it is, they just all show as one big sentence right there. Does that make sense? Pretty much? Okay. We'll come back to summary, that's important. There are other things that you can add on your profile, and that you can add a link or photos, sites, documents, presentations. For now, I wouldn't worry about that, but if you are more of like one of those 4 or 5s on our little LinkedIn usage scale that we talked about, that's a good thing to explore. The other way that you can enhance your profile even more if you're in that category is right here. I have this add profile section, and most of these things are going to tell me like I already have it, like your intro's looking good, all of that, but I can also add accomplishments. They have some different stuff here, accomplishments like publications, certifications. Anybody have any patents in here? If courses you've done, projects, so honors and awards, test scores, I would only do that if you got like a perfect score on the LSAT or something, but make sure it's noteworthy. Organizations.
97 on my science test.
Yeah, exactly. So if you think your profile is perfect and you want to take it to the next level, check that out. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a minute, and we're going to actually spend some time actually doing stuff now. Okay, guys? Before that though, mobile versus web versus mobile. I showed you Ron's profile briefly before, and he had his nice banner image that showed on the profile right now. The image is over on the left, so you could see all these words, and you could see, it made sense on desktop. On mobile, it actually kind of looks worse than if he had the normal blue, starry, dot background kind of thing. So that's why, putting your logo, you could probably work it out. It's going to be hard to make it so that it actually looks amazing on desktop and mobile, unless you like stick the logo way over here. So, you know, you could be creative and play with it, but on desktop, your profile picture shows up over on this side, it covers up some stuff here, and then on mobile, it shows up here. Stats are skewing toward users using mostly on mobile versus desktop. So if based on those stats, I would keep mobile users in mind first. So, yeah.
Isn't there a way that you can tap on the actual banner and they'll look at it in full screen like you can on Facebook?
That could be. I'd have to play with that. I'll get back to you. Even if that's the case, chances that some people do that probably pretty low. So
Yes, you can, Jake, but I don't think anyone's actually going to.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't take the time to tap on it, but I would.
Yeah.
I would think that you would be able to, but okay.
yeah, good point. So tiny little fact: if you do edit this is his headline right here. Apparently, I haven't tested this. If you need a few more than 120 characters for your perfect headline, if you do create it and edit it on mobile, you can get a few more characters than if you are doing it on desktop. So that I'm sharing that. Maybe it's going to save someone's life today. I don't know. But how many of you? How many of you do have the app? And is there anybody in here who uses the app more than desktop? Okay. Okay. So that's a percentage. All right. Well, you're next. Let's take a couple minutes, and if you haven't set up a profile, and if you don't have any moral opposition to setting up a profile, go ahead and actually go to linkedin.com and say sign up and go through the process and get it set up. So this is the section that kind of your description, like what you want people to see first. There's a lot of different things that you can do here, and so I'm actually on that LinkedIn webpage on my site, I have links to 3 articles. It's probably something that you're going to need to take a little more time with to make something that you're super happy with. Yeah.
The 5 summary templates doesn't work.
Oh, does it? I will fix it later. The link is there?
Yeah, it has a DNS error that comes up.
Oh, that might be their problem.
That's their problem.
That's yeah, because it worked for me when I tested it, but in that case it should work later because they're probably in panic mode in their office right now trying to get their website to work, calling their web developers help, or maybe they're lucky the web developer is panicking working on it and the people who have a website are still sleeping. So.
No, there's a colon missing in the link.
Oh, there is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's why it's not working.
Oh, okay. I will fix it. So, sorry, my problem. I shouldn't have done all that. But a little background on writing your summary. The first thing that I would decide is who your audience is for. This is a basic for pretty much anything you do in life, but especially writing. And this is going to narrow it down a lot for you if you're not just trying to write a summary for everyone in the world. But especially if you're job hunting, try to craft that summary with your ideal employer in mind. So I'm going to show you that link, and we're going to talk over 3 strategies that are options. But first, try to really think like specifically who are the people that I'm talking to. What do you want them to know about me? What do you want them to do? So that's where like you can have your contact information in your profile. And then how do you want them to feel? And that's going to relate to the tone that you use. So this is probably not something that you're going to whip out in 5 minutes if you kind of think through this. Now, if you do, here's the thing though. I think with LinkedIn, especially if you're just starting out, getting something down is a great place to start. So even if you just sit down and do bang out something that's decent, just make sure that it's perfect. So no embarrassing typos, and so perfect as in no typos and accurate. And having that there is, have a friend look over it. Is there anything embarrassing or awful about this? If they say, oh, that's okay, then having that is going to be better than nothing. So please don't like shelve your LinkedIn when you get home because, oh, I need to sit down for 30 minutes and write my summary. Because literally, if you're like me, you'll do that, and then 6 months later, you still have nothing, right? Is anybody else like me, or am I? Because like those are the little hang-ups that will literally stop me. So publish something that's right and good, and then move on from there. I will show you the link. This is an article that I thought that gave 3 good examples, and you can take a look at it later. I think only pay attention to like the first 3 because they're I think good, relevant for our situation. The mission-based summary, and then the personality summary. So that can be good for people who maybe don't have an extensive, amazing I am Elon Musk career history. And then the short and sweet summary, this is perfect for us to this is just accurate and more data driven. And the point here, the keyword is honesty. So if you are a barista at Starbucks and that's pretty much the extent of your career history, don't try to make yourself into something who you aren't. We'll talk some more about that. But just take a look at this, the kind of 3 different. I think those first 3 are relevant and could be helpful for writing your summary. Any questions from anybody about your summary or your headline or anything about setting up your profile or enhancing it before we move on to connections? All right, move on to connections. Just a few notes on this. As you already can tell, connections are pretty intuitive in LinkedIn, and they are, but there's definitely right ways and wrong ways to do it. So you probably got some invitations to accept, and best practice there is when you do accept an invitation, especially from somebody who you don't know. So that's going to happen. You're like, who's Joe Schmo? Go ahead and accept it because, yeah, it's a connection. But go ahead and engage them. Don't just be accept. And so a lot of times, especially if it's somebody I don't know, I won't accept them until I have time to actually sit down and type them out a quick little message. So that's one of my things that's on the list to do regularly. Go ahead and ask, hey, I see that you know so-and-so, or have we crossed paths anywhere, or how can I help you in your career, or whatever. Do open the conversation with them. When you did everybody figure out how to request people to connect with you? Sounds like there was a lot of that happening. Now, you guys were doing it the fast way. That's totally fine today, especially if it's people who are in the room with you. But the best practice by far for requesting is to create a personal invitation. Don't just, so basically LinkedIn makes it super easy for you to connect with people. They show you this huge list of all these people who you could possibly connect with. Here's one little distinction. If it's basically pulling in people from my contacts or people who know people who I know. If it says invite, this means that they don't have a LinkedIn profile already. So I tend to stay away from those because I've been on the receiving end of so-and-so wants you to join Snapchat or whatever, and I really don't want to, and they've probably gotten a million of those already. So if they're not on LinkedIn already, unless they're my friend next to me, and I'm like, dude, get on LinkedIn. Personally on LinkedIn, I only connect with people who are on LinkedIn. Because I think it's less spammy that way. But you'll know what to do. Now, if I just click on Amy, who was a long ago client that I worked with, if I just click connect, boom, she gets an invitation. By far, though, the best way who wants to connect with me? I'm going to search for you and find you. Okay, what's your name?
Colin Barham.
Colin Barham. Okay, so the best way to connect with somebody, and this is, by the way, I'm going to share my strategy. When I go to a live networking meeting, which I go to networking meetings, come home with a stack of business cards. How I use LinkedIn, this is my favorite way, personally, my main strategy, is I sit down with that stack of business cards within a day or two, and I go through and I search for everybody. So let's say I met Colin today. Let's see, is this you right here? Aha. So I'm going to search for Colin. I'm going to click on him. I'm not a connection with him. But instead of just saying, well, let's see, I can say connect, and it gives you a prompt, which is perfect, because it knows it's better if you add a note. So I can just send it now, and he's going to get the generic invitation. But when I am connecting with my networking people, I always add a note. So I'm like, hi, Colin. It was great to meet you at AU. Let me know if I can help you. Ways to not make this effective is to make it so generic. So this is pretty generic. Although I did mention the specific thing where we met. I try to bring in as much as I can to make this super personalized. So yes, I am copying and pasting from one networking connection to the next, but I'm filling in like, oh, it was so neat to hear how you help people find houses through your real estate company. Glad to meet you at Rainmakers, stuff, whatever. I try to make it truly personal. And that's part of my goals for LinkedIn, is to use it as just an online extension of my real life connections. So anyway, send an invitation. He's going to get that now in his messaging. He's going to get a message. If I just add all these connections, they make it super easy for you to connect with people with absolutely no personal interaction whatsoever. So yes, it does take a little more time to go and specifically but it takes more time to type in their name, find them, write them a message, but that's what everyone says, everyone, is the best practice for connecting, especially if it's somebody you don't know. That's important. So the reason connections are important is that connections are powerful. So back on that slide, I use a picture of a light bulb. I'm like, when a light bulb is connected to a power source or connected to other light bulbs, I know this is kind of a cheesy example, but it has power and reach and influence that it would never have on its own. And so that's why thinking about your connections is important, and doing it properly and nicely. Does anybody have any stories about connecting with somebody on LinkedIn, or maybe a bad example, or anything you'd like to share about connections on LinkedIn?
One of the students who came to my former school asked for a reference to Oxford.
Okay.
And we had lost touch, but she found me on LinkedIn, and that's how I was able to help her out with that.
Okay, that was a great example of how you were able to connect.
Yeah.
That's a good reason to also stay in touch with people a little bit, so that you're not just out of the blue like, hey, I know that we haven't talked for 20 years, but you'll know when you can do that. So, anything else to share? Okay. Next, this is a pretty easy one, but I want you guys to all take a minute and find someone to connect with and actually send them a personalized invitation. So like I just did with Colin, try to send a a personalized connection invitation that you'd like to receive yourself?
Not with each other.
Okay.
Outside of this group right here, the student group right here, if there's not someone you can think of, all of your instructors,
That
for
would be-
instance,
yeah.
many of the corporate partners do not connect with a corporate partner though if you don't have all of your appropriate information ready to go yet, okay? Some of the instructors would be a good idea right now, you could do that.
Yeah, or another person that's a great place to start is your parents. I know it's a little funny, but I don't know if you want them to do that, Angie, but they have a lot of connections that are great for you, so, yeah.
Next to someone's name, it says sometimes second.
Okay.
What does that mean?
Yeah, great question. I didn't touch on that. That means that I'm not directly connected with them, but they're connected to someone I know.
Oh, okay.
So they have like second and third connections. So like the concept. Maybe I think I learned this kind of late in life, but like you're no more than 6 degrees of separation away from anyone in the world. So, but yeah, second degree is they know somebody I know. Third degree is they know somebody. Anyway, get the gist.
What are you doing?
That means if there's second degree connections, that means you have somebody in common. So you can go and be like, oh hey, I know Bob Schmo. How do you know them? And that's a connection point, even if you don't have anything else.
Mrs. Gorski.
Okay, does everybody find somebody to connect with? You can kind of finish up while we're moving on. I just wanted to give a quick summary here of the things that you'll want to take a look at as you're setting up your profile to make sure that it's kind of ready to go. If you feel like you can look down this list and say that you have an understanding or you've like touched or you're happy with more or less with everything can always get better. But these are the things, if you have these things down, you have a great minimum and you're ready to go. I'm going to talk really quickly about skills and endorsements, which we didn't cover earlier. If you're moving on to other things, that's totally fine. But at the bottom of anyone's profile, you're going to see their experience, which is their job history, current and past. And then you get down there, and one of the standard sections is skills and endorsements. The difference between skills and endorsements, skills, you get to add these to yourself. So if you are skilled in any of these things, then in fact, like I'm going to go ahead and say, yes, I have a skill in online marketing. So I'll go ahead and add that. Now, that's going to show up at the bottom of the list because, it's going to show up kind of minimized. So here's online marketing right here. I added skills to myself. These little numbers over on the side show that I've been endorsed for that. And that means that somebody else said I was good at that. So that's nice because I could say that I'm good at all these. For instance, I could go in there and say that I'm like the world's best web application developer and know like 27 developing languages, which I don't. And, but endorsements give that social proof that I have that. A bad way to use endorsements is, a good way is to go to each other and endorse their skills. So for instance, I'm going to go over to Grace, because Grace endorsed me, and I'll see what she has on here. I get emails from Grace from Truth at Work, right? Is that you or your sister?
Yeah, you did, yes.
Okay, in the past. So I know that she is good at communication and connection, so I feel fine for endorsing her for that. Let's see. So she doesn't have that on her skills list.
I'm just trying to update it. It's not working.
Oh, it's fine. Don't worry about it. But so for instance, I don't think I've ever heard Grace public speak before. So a bad thing for me to do is just go down the list and endorse her for every single thing. And when I was talking to my mom about this, she was like, yeah, sometimes people endorse me for things they don't even know. And so take endorsements with a grain of salt. And you, like one trainer that I listen to, he thinks skills and endorsements are like, baloney, because anybody can basically say anything. It's easy to inflate it, but it's a great way to help each other. Now, if you want to take it to a whole new level, I can actually write a recommendation for her, and I haven't done this for a really long time. Oh, here we go. Recommend, which by the way is not good, but I can go in and I can say my relationship. So first I'm going to say how I know her, and then what her position was at the time. I'll say, let's see, it's a little tricky because Grace has sent me emails. Okay, I worked with Grace in the same group. Her position was, and I can pick which membership assistant and truth at work, and then I can say next, and I can type out, Grace was great. She was super professional, and she was so consistent in her communication, et cetera, et cetera. And then I can say send, and then that's going to show up on her profile. So that is definitely a great way to lift others up on LinkedIn. And whenever, for instance, if you have a fantastic experience, a customer service experience, go over and write a recommendation for that person. That's one of the best gifts online that you can give them. So I'll stop there on that, but those are some good pieces to make sure that you have set up on your profile. I am amazed that I'm almost to the end of my time. So I'm going to do super fly through on a couple more strategies that I just want to make sure that you, just a few quick things I'm going to talk about real quickly, is some specifics about job hunting on LinkedIn. So there's basically 4 ways that you can use LinkedIn, or that people can use LinkedIn for jobs. You can search for jobs, and just going to that job section, there's billions of jobs, and you can use really specific keywords. So that's a great way. You can position yourself for jobs, and one of the best things you can do if you've applied to a position, memorize their LinkedIn company page, and then if you can, provided that they've obviously kept it up at all, but then especially if you know who is going to be interviewing you, definitely read up on them on LinkedIn. If you know whose position you're taking, if there's someone advancing, go ahead and find out. So I don't think I've ever told Ron this, but when he approached me to work for Bitwise, and I knew that I was taking the position of a woman who was being promoted within the company, I went to Liz's profile, and she had a great profile. She had keywords that were obviously really important to her. She was set her key values and different things. I crafted my resume completely on her. I saw what she did. I saw the values that were important to her. I peppered my resume. And of course I wasn't being disingenuous, but maybe I decided to use the word, client engagement instead of project management, whatever, but the specific words that so I wasn't lying I've never, yeah, of course, I wasn't lying, but I phrased it such that so she was like, and I think she literally was like, it looks like you do exactly what I do, and I was like, well, yes, I kind of pulled out those things out of my life history. I mentioned this instead of that because you said that, so. Did you have a question?
So can I just go ahead?
Yeah,
I know you want to say something.
Kind of off topic and backtracking. I know you kind of pressed for time.
Oh, that's
You're
good.
trying to get stuff out. But two things. One, on the skills list, should I list skills that I don't think will at all be related to any career that I'd ever like get into?
That's a great.
Like, should I list?
What's
I
an
mean,
example of a skill that would be something?
I mean, I played high school basketball. Like, I don't know if that's a skill. I typed in basketball and I was like, oh, there's actually a skill. They had that as one of the things, but I don't know if that even really should. I kind of put that as under additional skills, so it's kind of hidden. So you actually really want to know anything else?
I would think back to your purpose, and I probably wouldn't do that. Like, we all have so many skills we can see. The point isn't necessarily to put down everything that you are skilled in, but things that you want people to endorse you in, and that people are going to be like, oh wow, 15 people said he was good at basketball. That's probably important if you're going into nonprofit, basketball camps, or if you're applying to the Olympics or something like that. But yeah, that's a great question.
And then the other question was, should I talk about myself in the third person, or should I be doing those things in the third person?
Yeah, that's a great question too. Third or first, and that is important, especially for your summary. Either is fine. Pick one and stick with it. But you mostly see people first person, and that definitely adds a lot more life to it if you do speak first person. And sometimes it's hard to get over the hump of feeling like you're just talking about yourself, which you obviously are, but to do it in a winsome way that comes through in your voice. So, good question.
I just wanted to add, what she just said about the resumes. Resumes are a huge, huge issue around here.
Okay.
Let's just say, anybody had an issue with their resume yet with us here? We cannot say enough. I know you guys just laughed about what she described, but we expect you now, truly hear me when I say this. This was just here for your training purposes. We now expect you all to understand this, and so when we say to you, craft your resume for this particular job at this particular company, and these are the people you're going to be interviewed by.
Yeah.
This is what she is talking about. This is the kind of research we now expect you to understand what we're meaning, is you can get this information and you can help Mr. B out source you into your apprenticeships and get you connected with an amazing network if you will take the steps that she just explained to you that literally did not take you days and days and days.
Actually, it made it easier because I knew exactly what to say. And kind of based on that, I take a non-traditional approach to resumes. Usually people are like, I have my resume, it's practically chipped into stone. And then, I make a different cover letter for every job that I've done.
Yeah.
Somehow I've made it through my entire career, never having written a cover letter. Some of that has to do with online applications, like they don't always even expect that. But what I do instead is I literally create a different resume for every job that I don't have to rewrite the whole thing, but I create a separate resume, just like using what I just said, based on the position that I'm applying for.
Yeah. And if I may add to that, what I do is I have a master resume, and that can be as many words, as many descriptions as I possibly want on there. All the skills, all the experience you've ever had. You never know what a company is looking for. You never know what you may use.
Yeah.
So write down everything you can possibly think of that you've accomplished in your life, which is a lot.
Yeah.
And then what I did was I would go around and apply to different jobs, and I would see what they were, and I would say, okay, that's what there are.
Yep.
I looked at my master resume, and I took content that I knew that they were looking for, and then I saved as different resume, Home Depot resume, PetSmart resume, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That is wonderful for sharing that. That is and that's what we expect is, a lot of times we might sit and say, well, you can take that off your resume for this particular company, it's not applicable.
Like maybe basketball.
Yes, maybe
for instance.
basketball, but there may be something that is.
Exactly.
Right? And so having the master and having files of your resumes, different resumes, not deleting something off, right, completely, and having to start over, we need that. And then if you would, really quickly, maybe Lisa, you are not pressed for time as
Okay.
far as we have nothing right after this. They might need just to stand up break for a few minutes or something.
Are you positive?
Well, here's the thing, we have you here and this needs to happen. And so I'd rather let them have a 5-minute break and stuff and come back and keep going than to just say, okay, we didn't get through everything, if that's okay with you. Secondly, would you just quickly, and I don't want me to interrupt it, I will forget this, I might have to leave. So, would you please speak to the idea that this is still social media? And again, when you were at Bitwise and your job was through Bitwise, had you been derogatory in any way that now they're all connected, saying they're apprentices or involved with Apprentice University?
Right.
The expectation that holds.
Yeah, I can definitely talk to that. I have a slide. First of all, time-wise, may I ask for 15 more minutes? And if anyone needs to leave, absolutely, that's fine. I respect your time. Obviously, Angie is your, I guess you answered first. Yeah, but according to me, you have no expectation. So I'll ask for 15 minutes, and then if you need to stand up, that's totally fine. Take a stretch break. But based on what she just said, it is social network. So I have three tests that anything I post online anywhere, other than like whispering it to my husband at home, 3 tests. Do I want my current or future employer to see this? So would I happily be like, oh, hello, look what I wrote? Okay, test 1. Test 2 is, oh my, I might forget that. I haven't thought of this for a long time. Employer, also think of client. So if I'm my own business, do I want them to see this? And then the other one I think was, would my future grandchildren care about this? So that's more of like, does this matter? So the first one is like, is this even good? And so, there are places for rants, but I think digitally is never the time. So personally, like, if you care about your brand at all, the line might be here of what's okay and what's not, but just stay over here. And we see that all over in our world right now. One slip, and sometimes that topples people in a second. So if you have anything in your head that's like, maybe not, just delete it. Just do it. It's not worth it. Like, go tell your friend, like, I was almost gonna post this online. So you can get off your chest, but just don't put it online. It's literally, you may as well be chipping it into stone when you put it online, because it's really hard to get rid of stuff. So then kind of, as far as, this is what I'll bring up later, personal brand, like there's all kinds of things that build the picture of who you are, and that includes things like what you like on LinkedIn. So like even if somebody posts something, like let's say somebody posts something that's kind of controversial in whatever way, racist or sexist, whatever, if you like that, that's building your brand. So people are going to see that in your recent activity. So that's part of the picture that you're presenting. Of course, what you post, comments that you leave, all of those things. And as far as derogatory things, unless you're, I don't know, somebody whose brand is saying abrasive things, which there are those people in the world, that's just, anything derogatory just isn't worth saying. Now, I do have a category for speaking out about injustices. I think that sometimes I have to say things that are controversial when I'm standing up for someone who's downtrodden or whatever. That's kind of different. But like saying, if I say something, so let's say that Mary, I come to you and I'm like, Mary, like Angie, she's just so like, and I go on and on and on about how like, oh, Angie, you make my hair pull out, like she forgot to bring me water. And so, and now Mary's like, I have to be perfect around Lisa.
Yeah.
Because
I know.
I wonder what she's saying about me.
Exactly.
And so, same thing online. If you say something bad, derogatory about any anything, even if it is bad and derogatory, like mean and bad, unless it's like, okay, you know, something that needs to be spoken out against. That's, but you
Public
know,
service announcement. or something.
affronts to your personal, you know,
Yeah.
you know, like, oh, they're so late giving me my coffee, like
Yeah.
that is not some, like, if you say something bad about that, then you've just branded yourself as someone who is negative, is easily offended, all that stuff. So does that kind of go along?
And the fact that you would have expected to be called in potentially by at Bitwise if they would have seen that you were.
Absolutely. Yeah. So just look for the silver lining in clouds. That goes along with being truthful too. Like I said, honesty is really important to me. So don't be dishonest, but if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. And try to find the positive situation. Try to find the silver lining in the cloud if you really have to say something. It's always there. Like, so, yeah, and these days you can lose your job over a comment that you leave on Facebook or whatever. So it does matter. It's so easy, but it matters. But tying back to jobs, that's going to affect, like, so when you apply for a job, employers had better be checking you out on LinkedIn if they do any research at all. So just keep that in mind, and keeping your profile fresh is a great way to, if you're following some basic steps and just checking in on it regularly, you shouldn't have anything to worry about. So that's some ways that LinkedIn can help you, and just a few specifics. And we touched on this already, but you can research the companies before you apply. You can actually, here again, if you are targeting like super specific roles, positions, change your keywords, change up your summary, change up your current and past job titles. It's fine to like kind of adjust your title at, I mean, they're going to be decent, like, you know, barista at Starbucks. But you could say something like customer, I don't know. Some places have a term, but even if they don't, it's fine to say something that is more in line with what you do, provided it makes sense, like, you know, customer satisfaction representative at Starbucks, whatever. And then in your profile, you can say, you know, as a barista, I create. So people will always find out the truth. So never try to twist it, hide it, whatever. But you can use words that are truthful, but better. Request endorsements from people you know. Feel free to reach out. And then just watch your personal brand, like we said. So here's a few tips for students and starters when you're doing LinkedIn. So this reminded me of my days back at Whole Foods. I worked for Whole Foods Market for 9 years in 3 different states, and it was often like, I worked for a lot of nonprofits over my career, so I would like work at Whole Foods in the night, so I'd have insurance and, you know, food and stuff, and then I'd work a lower paying but high impact job during the day, whatever. And so now that's pretty far back on my resume. I don't even put it on my resumes now, like that I worked there. But when that was still basically my most recent significant job history, I would emphasize those transferable skills. So like, yeah, I could put down made pizza boxes. I could put those things, but I could say things like managed multiple tasks at once. You know, and then percentages, instead of saying like, you know, I had my own business as well. Like over 1 year, I went from making a $500 profit to a $1,000 profit. You know, like, so, you know, big whoop there. But I can say I increased my profits by 100% over 12 months. Like, so speaking in percents to show those benefits can look better than numbers sometimes even just starting out. So
Yes.
does that kind of make sense? Does anybody have questions about as a student or how to maximize it? It's fine to say in your headline that you are a, you know, a apprentice at Prentice University seeking opportunities to, is it fine to use, you know, growing my connections with developers in the Indianapolis area. It's fine to beef out your headline to still, there again, not disguise the fact that you're a student or just graduated, but to still emphasize the keywords for positions that you need. So, okay. Couple more things here. As a group, a few things I just wanted to highlight for you guys. Like I said, you already have like a huge super group right here. So if you guys all jump on a LinkedIn and use it to help each other, that can really help you. And you know that you're friendly and you're all in the same boat, and so it's great. But help each other with writing and editing. Like, be like, hey, can you honestly tell me is this terrible? And pinballing that stuff off of each other is fantastic. You could create a group, and maybe you already have this of students, I don't know, but somebody could take leadership and create a group, which is more like a private network of people, and you can post stuff that's only seen in the group, and you have to be let into the group and stuff like that. So I know, do you want to tell us, are you actually in some developer groups right now?
I've
working on it.
I've asked to be, but they haven't accepted me yet.
Okay, that's cool. So anyway, that's a good way and you can do it. But if you know someone who would be a great connection for one of your fellow students or instructors or whoever, feel free to send them a LinkedIn message. And it looks a whole lot better if I go on and say like, hey Angie, I wanted you to meet my friend Mary. Like, Mary provides, she provides experience music during events and provides live music, whatever. It looks way better if I say that to you than if Mary's like, hey Angie, I heard that you do live events sometimes, like, do you want me to do harp music for your event? Like, so doing, like, it means a lot more, we all know that, like, if you go and talk about somebody else. So, give endorsements and recommendations, and then just share what you guys do. And I think in this room there's all the knowledge you could possibly need to use LinkedIn for your goals. So, okay, we basically talked about this, so I'll just leave that in the. The only one I'll mention as far as your personal brand, the endorsements that you give and the recommendations. That's a great way to build your personal brand. So if you give a lot and if you are generous and honest, that's a great way to build it. Okay, I'm going to end. We were just going to brainstorm. I'm going to end with my story about Arnie, because I told you I was going to tell you about him. And then I'm going to stop, okay? So, met this guy. His name wasn't Arnie, but I don't want you to connect with him. I met him at a networking event, and he was like he was really interested, like, oh, we need to have a meeting for sure. And so he kind of let on that he needed some marketing help. Like, I really want to use LinkedIn for my marketing. So he called me that day. We set up, he seemed in a hurry to go and set up a meeting. Okay, so I get to this meeting at Panera or somewhere, and I quickly figure out that he's trying to sell me something. He's not trying to get anything. He's not trying to find out about marketing. So it turns out he wanted to use LinkedIn marketing, and he was he just wanted to connect with people. And I think even in the initial networking meeting when I met him, he was like, oh yeah, I have 2,000 connections or something like that. And how you can see that, by the way, this is kind of fun, but is, so you see I have 490 connections. Basically, we'll look at Ron here. Once you reach 500, it just says 500 plus. So it's not immediately obvious. So 500 is kind of the place you want to get, because then you have to look harder to figure out how many they actually have. And the way to actually figure that out is you come down to activity and you see 5513 followers. Most of those people are connections. So, and so, so anyway, this guy who I was about to look him up and show you how many he had. He has like 10,000 connections. But he's just like, friending everybody he can possibly meet because he has like a multi-level marketing business, which I actually have a multi-level marketing business as well, so nothing against that, but I do have something against sleazy tactics to build your marketing business. So LinkedIn, so he's like, oh, I want to use LinkedIn, like how do I? So he was basically looking for like spammy ways to message people, and then while I'm in this meeting with him, first he's like, oh, you need to watch this video, and like, don't you want to sign up for my whatever, and, oh, I'll think about it. But anyway, but then another big thing that really turned me off is he was like, oh, who else do you know? Like, who else are you connected with? So like, we're there, and he's like looking up my family and I was like, oh, I know this other guy that like, how do you know him? Like, well, I've worked with, he was like basically my, we worked in this next row. And we're like, oh, he was like connecting with my friends, and now I'm like, he's gonna be like, and I don't think he was doing personalized invites, thank goodness, because like he probably would have gone on there and been like, oh, hi, I was just meeting with your friend Lisa, and I'd be like, oh my goodness, like that wasn't very like I should have like gone and gone to my brother-in-law like, oh hey, by the way, this guy is gonna request you, like just don't bother, like. But anyway, I wanted to kind of wrap up with that as a little bit of a etiquette reminder. Now he kind of was doing that in person, but it's very easy to do things in an online app virtual environment that we would never do in real life. Another example is like if I just walk up and I'm like, oh hey, what's your name? What's your name?
John.
John. Like, nice to meet you. I was wondering, do you need me to design any business cards for you or anything like that? Like, I'm fantastic about designing business cards. We just don't do that in real life, but we do it all the time, or unfortunately it happens regularly online where we're like, oh hi, let me connect with you, like I'm a financial planner, do you need any, how's your financial plan, and that's just that turns people off. It kills connection, it doesn't cultivate it. So if you just keep normal like real life courtesy and etiquette in mind, you're going to be great as you move forward with LinkedIn. So, speaking of which, don't talk too much. We'll stop there. So.
Thank you, Amy.
If you do have any questions, I'll hang around for a bit. And thanks so much for your patience and your engagement. And I hope that you don't just shelve it. Try to take some time with it really soon. And if you don't, I'll stop you. And if you friended me, we're connected.